Well, we used to say, when they came down on us, we'd be on radio stations. They would be, how do you feel, turning all these kids on to drugs and that. And so my thing was, in fact, I said, what if we're right? What if what we were doing back then was the right thing to do? And it turned out to be the right thing. And so now that it's legal, man, it's like, Cheech and I both walk around like, yeah, we did it, man. It's legal, and it should be because it's healthy. Yeah.
It's just another day in paradise with marijuana.
Yeah, it is.
Especially if you've done the spectrum of drugs. Like I was an asshole growing up. I was a criminal, so I did the spectrum of drugs.
What kind of crime?
I was a fucking petty thief, coke dealer. I did whatever. My mom died, and I lost faith in the system. I lost faith in myself, and I just did anything I could do to.
Was this in Jersey?
In Jersey, New York City area, yeah. And
well, that's what you do.
And you break down and you just do shit. And one day I got in trouble, and did I learn my lesson? Fuck no. I came out and kept fucking around. But,
well, you found out how to get into the best prisons.
Yeah. Well, you find that it's funny. The guy that got me into the best prison died 2 weeks ago. I got the email last week. I went to him before I got locked up because him and I had similar crimes. So I went to him, and he goes, "I'll make calls for you." So when I got the diagnostic, I already had an in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's very important. As soon as I got the diagnostic, they said, ask for this certain guy, tell him Ed K-Bass sent you, God rest his soul, and, I had the best slippers.
Well, yeah, same as me. When they were going to put me in, the word went out, and I'm such a celebrity with everybody in the system, in the prison system.
Yeah, I can just imagine.
And so when I got there, it was like a royal greeting. Everybody lined up outside the prison, and how are you doing, Mr. Chong? And they said, for tradition or whatever it is, legally they have to handcuff me to walk into the door. And then once I'm in the door, they take off the handcuffs. It's just symbolic, because actually they let me, what do you call it?
Surrender?
Self-surrender, yeah. And so Vanity Fair sent me a writer and a limo to take me from my house to prison. And so we rode out to prison in a limousine, got stopped by the cops for speeding. And the driver said, "We got Tommy Chong going to prison." The guy said, "Okay, go ahead. No ticket, just get him into jail." And when I got there, when they processed me in, they had me. There was two prisons. There's the main joint in the front of the prison, and I was in the camp at the back. And so when you go through the front door, it's a real lockdown. The official language in that prison was Spanish, so it was a tough prison. Behind there was the camp, and it was up full of celebrities and lawyers and doctors and white collar people. And so the guy that had to drive me there, as soon as I got in the truck, in the pickup truck, he pulls out a Cheech and Chong album. He says, "Will you sign this for me?" And then when I got in the joint, I was greeted, and the first guy who greet me was a little Spanish guy named Tony, and he goes, "Hey, come on, I got some hand-picked Dickies, the uniform you have to wear." He had some antique Dickies that they were saving. He's a clothes guy, and so I got these. I had a beautiful uniform. It was crazy, man. And all I did when I was there, besides go to school, I went to school. I had free reign, basically. And the only thing I really started doing the minute I walked in was take pictures with the inmates. And then the visiting thing filled up because they heard I was there. And so it was like a meet and greet every Sunday. And then they said, "Okay, no more pictures." That was a big deal from there. But it was fun. Then we shot a video, and they let me use the warden's office. And you know how it is when you're shooting a movie, you can tell everybody to shut up. Everybody shuts up, and so we didn't have. We were sitting around bullshitting, and I said, because I could hear the warden, everybody walking and talking and that, so I just leaned my head out the door and goes, "Hey, quiet in here. We're shooting." And they oh, okay. So I had the warden tiptoeing around. Everybody tiptoeing around.
What prison did you? Now you got charged with a federal.
Yeah, it was a fed.
So you ended up going to Lompoc?
No, I went to Taft.
And where's Taft?
Taft's outside of Bakersfield.
Okay.
Just outside of Bakersfield. It was originally a woman's prison. And so we had showers with doors on them. We had the shitters with doors on. You know, it was a women's prison. So
how many people in the prison?
In our camp, there was I think 400.
That's a lot.
200 in each. There's 2 dormitories, A and B, and they had a gay dormitory, a gay old man dormitory. That's one I was in, and then B, the other prisoners. But you had to be nonviolent.
Right. There was a lot of things.
It was a camp. It was a camp. We had running tracks. You couldn't weight lift anymore. They stopped the weights, and so everybody was like chin ups and dips, but they had a running track and a football field, a basketball court, and I was taking tango at the time, tango dancing. So I used to go to the basketball court and practice my tango walk, and because I'm an entertainer, I'm used to people looking at me, so I wasn't worried about that. And so I had a big contingent of bikers. There's a lot of peaceful bikers and Mongols and Hell's Angels and a lot of those guys, but they were hardened criminals, but they were peaceful, so they were in the camp. And they would gather around to watch me do my tango walk. And then one day, Steve, big old biker, goes, "Hey, Chong, you don't have to dance alone here. I'll dance with you." Har, 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 har. So I walked over to him, because in tango, dancing with men is quite common. So I took him in my arms. And he got all homophobic. "Oh, no." Geez. And he became my best friend and my dog. And so when we were... And he was like my Cheech, man. I tortured the shit out of this guy. Like, we'd play pool and I'd beat him, and then I wouldn't play him again. Because I'm and he was a pool shark. And he might have let me beat him the first game, but I'd never played him again the whole night. The whole time I was there.
You had a good time in there, didn't you?
Oh, man. I
had a good time.
I had the best time.
I had a good time.
I had the best.
It's great. How much time did they make you do?
9 months.
9 months.
9 months, yeah.
And it goes fast.
It went really
How was
fast.
the food in your situation?
Well, we had our own private chef.
Sounds like Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly. We had his name is Eric Larson. He's a pro golf caddy. He was a golf caddy for Mark Calcavecchi. And he was in on a very bum rap, like he would buy cocaine from this girl, and so the feds busted the girl, and they said, "We need a name." And so she gave him Eric's. He was the closest to a name that she had. And so the feds went after Eric, and they offered him 5 years. And Eric's, because he wasn't a dealer. He was a caddy. And so he fought it, and he won. And then they refiled the charges, and he couldn't afford the second one. You can't beat the feds. And so they gave him, I think, 15 years. And he did 11 when I was there.
You know what the most shock? I mean, I'm sure, I'm not saying that you were scared before you went in, but you had some doubts. You had never been in jail before and all this. I think the biggest shock to you and me was the stories you hear in there.
Yeah.
About how the government works.
Oh.
And if you tell people, like, I would love to sit with somebody I have 10 hours.
Yeah.
Of undercover stories that people would die. They go, "Joey, you're lying." And I'm telling you,
they can't believe it.
You cannot believe how the federal government works.
There's a guy in there he might still be in there, but he was supposed to be released a year before I went in. And because of the paperwork, they won't release him. And he's got no way to get him. But on the other hand, it's a federal prison. And so they have to give you the medical, And so I met guys in there that had they weren't criminals, but they had to have the open heart surgery or they would die. And so they would commit a crime to end up in the federal system and get the operation. So it's a whole crazy.
It's a fucking, people on the streets would not, normal people would go, Joey, I love you, but you're lying.
Yeah.
That would never happen. Stories of because I was arrested for kidnapping. So they put me in county first.
Kidnapping?
Yes, but it becomes federal. Kidnapping 1 and 2, an aggravated robbery.
She wouldn't go up with you?
Nah, that little bitch. She was in love with Harvey Weinstein instead. So what happened was when you get arrested for federal and you go in and you're there, I think it takes 72 hours for them to decide whether they're going to charge you on the state. The feds couldn't make a decision up because I had been in trouble in Aspen. I was in on some Aspen-type drug stuff, and the DEA got involved. So until they wanted to talk to me, brief me or whatever, to try to make me a deal, the DEA, the feds held on to me. It was like a ploy, and I kept saying, why am I still here after 72 hours? And they're like, well, they're still deciding. You guys have to decide by now. The feds are a different game. And then when people heard me on the phone, they would come over and go, listen, man, that ain't nothing. And you would start hearing shit about, this one guy was in there. Now, when you go to prison, you know who's lying to you and you know who's telling you the truth.
Yeah.
If I'm telling you I'm a kingpin and all of a sudden I'm bumming a cigarette from you, there's a fucking problem, okay?
No, the problem is if you believe them.
If you leave them, right, if you believe them. But there's guys in there that every visitation, they got a different broad visiting them.
Yeah.
Bringing them food, giving them 10,000. I mean, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And this guy was telling me a story how, this Fed was his friend for 2 years. And he goes, everything I did, the guy did. And he goes, we got so strung out on blow that we started shooting it. He goes, he was a Fed, shooting it with me, shot for shot, shot for shot. And he goes, I couldn't figure it out when they arrested me. They tried to make me do a deal real fast. And he goes, I turned it down. My attorney wanted to take it to trial. They kept pushing it back because the guy had become a junkie and he couldn't get off the coke and they couldn't figure out how they were going to testify against him. They had a little bit of tape. The stories are endless.
Endless.
Like they had a little bit of tape so they couldn't really prosecute. So this guy waited 2 years to go on trial, like just because they had to
clean up.
And he goes, the guy came in looking like fucking Johnny Pavarotti 2 years later, and he denied everything. There's no more coke in his blood. It's your word against mine, and he's a Fed, and he's not.